Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. In this episode, I had the opportunity to catch up with a couple folks that I had an earlier conversation with back in June of last year. We kind of found ourselves in an empty conference room and starting to talk about AI. It just kept going and going. And all of a sudden we look at our watches and at least an hour and a half has passed. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to kick us out of here. But, it was just such a pleasure to catch up with both of them. Adriana McLane, she is the founder of Fulfilling Strategy. And she has really focused on strategy, and she's got some really great coaching elements that she talked about. And, she just has really enjoyed embracing this distribution world, coming from the manufacturing side and doing a couple of other things, but has really enjoyed jumping into the uniqueness of our industry and, looking at some of the family dynamics inside of these companies and how does the executive C-suite handle that. And then, of course, the other person in the room is Dirk Beveridge. And Dirk Beveridge, as I've interviewed him a few times, he was the founder of Unleash Wholesale Distribution. He did the We Supply America tour bus for a number of years, and now has founded another interesting piece called the Fully Alive Movement. And so, Dirk is always up to something new and creative, and he really tends to focus on the human element of our businesses and looking at our companies in a different way. And one of the things the Fully Alive Movement is hyper-focused on is helping people rise up from where they think they should be in society and give them those opportunities to really fulfill their dreams. So anyway, it was a great discussion between the three of us, a little meandering at times perhaps, but I hope you all really enjoy it. This episode was brought to you by my friends at Profit2. I invited their founder, Dave Roller, on the show to talk about their pricing philosophy and maybe spill the secret sauce. Over the course of my interview with Dave, I found that his methods were much in alignment with the manual digging process I've shared with clients over the years. His algorithms just did it a whole lot faster and easier than I could. It also helps that he comes from a distribution background and understands the needs of the wholesale distributor. Since Profit2 is a software as a service, and the operative word being service, they're uniquely positioned to provide real horsepower to your internal team. Come take a look at what Profit2 can do for you at www.profit2.com. That's profit with a number 2. And be sure to let them know you heard about them on the Distribution Talk podcast. All right, friends. Hey, I've got a special treat today. I have 2 guests, not just one. So this is a very rare moment. I've done it before, but I'm going to do it again. And actually, it's a continuation of a conversation we had last June at the Distribution Strategy Group. Applied AI for Distributors, I believe, is the formal name for that. But we had this fascinating little conversation, and we should have been kicked out of that little room because we stood in there for far too long. But this is a continuation of that. And I'm really excited to introduce my guests. Actually, I'm going to let them introduce myself. So Adriana, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, please introduce yourself. Tell us why you got involved with distribution and what do you like about it and why you're still here. And then we will absolutely jump into having Dirk tell a little bit about himself, although he's been on the show a couple of times, but we'll do a reintroduction. Adriana, would you mind taking it away?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Adriana McLane, and my business is Fulfilling Strategy. And what I do is I work with distributors to help them create strategy that delivers from the C-suite to the warehouse floor. And I do that through helping them create strategic operating systems that really make sure that their important strategic initiatives become really daily to-do lists. And I have been working with distributors exclusively for the past 6 years. So I haven't been in this quite as long as a lot of people. I'm kind of an accidental. I developed a love for distribution accidentally. So I had a client who was a distributor about 6 years ago. And, my experience before that had always been on the manufacturing and big brand side of things. And so in my business, I had worked with, big boxes and then also distributors like Jansan, food service and things like that. But, for some of the big Fortune 500 brands. But I don't think I had quite the appreciation or respect that I probably should have for distributors until I started working with this client. And I really just understood so much how important distributors are, the value they bring, and it's just such a great community, a lot of family owned businesses. And I just fell in love with it. And I think as a strategist, one of the things that I really like about it is distributors are in the middle, right? And their value proposition is on the line every day. And I love that. And so I want to help them stay relevant, stay competitive, and just keep doing all the amazing things they do. So I'm in it now. I'm not going anywhere. This is my industry.
Perfect. Well, we appreciate that. And I'll tell you, it's a wonderful industry. I was born and raised in it, but, fell in love with, the clientele, the people, and the challenges every single day. It's fun watching, especially family-held businesses. I like family-owned businesses. That's, my sweet spot. And I think that people from manufacturing, from different walks of life, they're not exposed to this. They don't understand what makes us unique and what makes us so different. And if I can steal a little bit from you, Dirk, here, the noble calling of distribution, that it is a noble daily pursuit. I mean, it's really solving these challenges in unique ways on a daily basis. I think that's what makes it really exciting.
It is. And I think the distributors do such a good job of it that it's not visible to, as much, right? Because they do such a good job of it. So.
Dirk, would you like to reintroduce yourself to the audience?
Thanks. And before I do, a couple things at what you just said. First, Jason, thanks for having us. Adriana, so glad to be with you on this. And for those of you listening, meeting Adriana for the first time, I got to tell you something. The way that Adriana looks at business, looks at the operational systems of businesses and the strategy that's required to remain profitable, relevant, sustainable. I got to tell you something. Every time I've had a chance to talk to and learn from you, Adriana, I have just been blown away by who you are and what you bring to your clients in the industry. So I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Oh my gosh, that means the world to me coming from you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then Jason, let's go to what you talked about, the noble calling, right?
Yes, the noble calling.
So, those of you that know me know that for the summers of 21, 22, 23, 24, I crossed the country, 54,000 miles, 32 different documentary films on the We Supply America tour, championing the noble calling of distribution. And Adriana, as you said, distribution is in the middle. Jason, you talked about being family and all this. And so when you look at the word noble, what is the etymology of the word noble? Where does it come from? It comes from first a Latin word, then Old English. And the Old English meaning of noble, it means the one who is known. The one who is known, right? You think about that. From the Middle Ages is where it came from. There's the Lord, there's the king up on the mountain. All the peasants are down there doing the work. We should know the, but it's true. Distribution is an $8 trillion economic engine that supplies our way of life, creates over 6 million jobs. And Jason, what you do with this podcast, for example, ensuring that those who should be known, these distributors that are creating our way of life, are in fact known and help them remain relevant. It's truly beautiful what you do and your commitment.
Appreciate that. So I appreciate that, my friend.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but the We Supply America tour has run its path and it's been amazing. And the way I look at that is after 40 years as a consultant to the industry, for 40 years, I would fly in and I would go to a distributor's business, sometimes manufacturers, and I'd walk into the front door where the business owner, the CEO, the president would meet and greet me. And then we'd do our thing. And then Adriana, like you, we'd go up to the boardroom. We'd start whiteboarding. We'd start right, all that type of stuff. Well, the We Supply America tour was different. For 4 summers, I had a chance to visit over 100 different distribution businesses. And rather than walking in the front door for the first time in my career, I walked in the back door. And when you walk in, when you decide to walk into a business through a different door, by the way, for those of you listening, when is the last time, metaphorically or in real life, have you walked into your business through a different door? Because when you do walk into the business through a different door, you see it through a new lens. You see it through a new perspective. And maybe more importantly, you meet new people. and you
Mhm.
hear different stories. And
Interesting.
so that's what the We Supply America tour has done for me. And it brought a completely different perspective to me. And what we've uncovered is that the future is absolutely human. And it is all about people. I know we're going to talk about strategy. I know we're going to talk
Yeah.
about AI. I know we're going to talk about operations right up your alley, Jason. But man, in the end, none of that matters unless we help our people thrive and flourish. And that is our passion. So my business partner and I, Bethany, we are in the process of creating what we call the FAM, the Fully Alive Movement, which is our vision, our mission is to empower 1 million people to decide to rise from just getting by to living fully alive. And the last thing I'll say, and we'll talk whatever we want,
Yeah.
at the center of that, the moral center of living fully alive is when you as the individual begin to honor yourself.
Mhm.
At the center, we must honor ourselves before what society expects of us. And then we're on our path to living fully alive. That's a little bit about what we're doing, Jason.
Fantastic. No, I've never heard you really talk about entering through a different door, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love that. And it just kind of conjures up so many different thoughts.
Yeah.
Let's jump into something if we could. Again, we all met at an AI conference. And so AI is, it's dominating our conversations. I mean, literally, I can't go a day without either, talking about or being fully immersed in my relationship with AI. And so it is a huge part of the clients we work with and really in our own lives. So, Adriana, you've talked about an article that you put together around when friction is being removed through the use of technology and specifically in AI. Could you elaborate a little bit about that, and what you're seeing there with that friction being removed?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the things that right now it's understandable that the focus of our discussions, particularly in distribution around AI is, how do we leverage it? How do we
Hmm.
leverage, sales order automation, all the things. And of course, that is exactly what we need to do. But for me, from, a strategy perspective, and how do I help my clients be resilient and be anti-fragile to, all the changes that are happening in the world? I have to look at it as, okay, absolutely, let's do that. But then also we have to look at what do we do when AI challenges our core value proposition? Okay. How
Hmm.
does it
Hmm.
do that? How might it
Yeah.
do that? And one of the ways that it definitely has the potential to do, and in some cases is doing it. I would say, for instance, Amazon Business Partner that was just released for Amazon Business. That is doing this exact thing, and that is removing friction. Because obviously distributors, we, move boxes and make sure that the right products are,
Hmm.
at the right place at the right time. But there's a lot of the value involved in that is your ability to remove friction for the buyer.
Hmm.
And as technology evolves, a lot of that friction can go away, and access to technology is so affordable. So let me give you an example. So for me and my business personally, I in the past would have paid somebody to create my website because it's like, all right, it's just too much for me to deal with. But now, literally, because I've done this, I can create a website, using Lovable or even, Claude Code. And I can do this in the course of a weekend, be very, very happy with it. And I'm done. So like, I don't need that service anymore. So basically, like any other type of change in the market, it just raises the core or the base level of performance that's expected. And I think
Hmm.
with AI, that is going to continue to happen, but at a really, really rapid pace.
Interesting. I mean, I can absolutely relate to the service of, having somebody create a website or do some sort of technological advancement. I mean, and today it's just, I have a little conversation with my AI and we come up with some stuff and I'm like, that's a whole lot prettier than I was going to come up with. That's pretty darn nice. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, utilizing tools to just basically to make life a little bit easier, but it is reducing friction. I think that's absolutely a point. And I think that, frankly, distribution has made a good amount of money in friction,
Yeah, right.
in smoothing friction. Go ahead, Dirk.
I tell you, I was struck, Jason, how you set up with a prompt the question to Adriana, the words you used. I'm not sure you used the word, but
I
you
don't know if
did.
I did or not.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll see, right? You said my relationship with AI.
Yes. Yes.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just stop right there. I mean, you're an operations guru. Is that fair, Jason?
I, I play one on TV, but yes. Okay.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
And so when in your career did you say you had a relationship with the racks in a warehouse? When
Yeah,
is the
never.
last time you said you had a relationship with the rolling stock? When is
Yeah.
the last time you said you had a relationship with the barcoding gun?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess you never did.
No, absolutely not.
But
No.
look at what you just said, a relationship with AI. So I don't know if there's a question or a statement here, but that was an observation that stopped me. It's something to think about. It says, we're entering into a new era that we cannot stop, that is absolutely accelerating beyond any of our wildest dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gone from the way you just said that, from a tool to something that I need to develop a relationship with. So let me turn it back to you, Jason.
Yeah.
When you think about that, let's all think out loud here. What does
Yes.
that mean? Is there any meaning in that in terms of how we're seeing this technology develop and all that? I don't know.
Adriana, do you want to take a shot? Or I mean, I have my opinion, but
Okay.
you know, I
No,
would
no,
love
it's
to hear from you.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm probably not going to answer this the right way because
There's no
I
right
don't
way,
know,
right?
and
Yeah.
I think it's hard, and so this may be a little bit of a punt, but I would say when you talk about relationships, in a lot of ways, I tie this back to the original friction question because a lot of the value that you find in distribution, the relationships that are created, and my clients a lot of times will say, "Okay, now what makes you different from other distributors who have pretty much the same product at pretty much the
Yeah.
same price, right?"
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's the relationship, what we're able to do. And while I love relationships, my thought is always, I can't scale relationships. That's kind of the cherry on top. And absolutely you want to have it, but I can't scale it. And so it's just a very interesting way of thinking about it. And then what happens now, if that is your primary, that's your primary
Yeah.
differentiator is the relationship that I have, only
Mhm.
now your customer is an AI agent because, the buying function has been pretty much automated to a degree, right? And
Yes.
so, and again, that isn't today, all right? That's
Right.
not today. But the speed with which we are talking about things, I think about where things were in June when we first were in that meeting room, right? And where it is today. So, while we talk about it as something that's out there, what I just want everybody listening to understand is this is different. The timing is different. And, that can't be misunderstood. And this technology is here to stay. And I think that is maybe a good question. How do we have the right relationship with it as a business?
Absolutely. I think that for my evolution of this, I mean,
Yeah.
originally in 2022, when ChatGPT came out, and I remember, saying, wow, this has a lot of answers. Okay, this is a lot of answers, things that I got paid to answer. And there was a fear
Right.
moment at that point saying that I am no longer going to be the answer provider. That is when my clients ask me a question. So I went into ChatGPT and asked some of the questions that I commonly was asked over the last, decade. And I said, how is this little tech guy going to be able to answer this stuff? Come on, let's see how you do. And the answers are pretty darn good. And so at that moment, I had to realize that, okay, my role is no longer to be the purveyor of answers. It is to now become the purveyor of questions and to help people formulate better questions. And so then my relationship has evolved in that I recognize that this is a tool that I can have a relationship with. I can learn to prompt and learn to communicate with and teach others to communicate with this as well. And I think one of the points, and this is one that's just been pushing me lately, is I don't want to abdicate my responsibility as the thought leader, but I want to put AI in its proper role of thought partner.
Love it. Love it.
And to keep that separation, because I think when we abdicate our responsibility to being that thought leader, then all of a sudden we get lazy. We lack creativity at that point. And we're not leaders anymore. I mean, I think that then we have just said, okay, let's let the machine work for us. And I'm not comfortable with that. I'll put it that way.
Love
Well,
it.
and I do think in a world where intelligence is democratized because we have access, at least today we have access to it.
Yeah.
I do have a theory that as there's more and more demand and we have limited resources in terms of energy and all the raw materials that go into this, the costs are going to go up. And then those who have access to it are really going to be the ones who can pay for it. But in this moment, it's accessible. So, there's a democratization of intelligence, but there's also a homogenization of what is being produced out there right now. I mean, because everyone's accessing the same things, right? And so I do think this comes back to the human element. I always say anyway that like strategy is what you're going to do, but culture is how you're going to get it done. Because at the end of the day, no matter what it is you're doing, it's about people, right, Dirk? And so it all comes back to the people. And the most compassionate thing I think we can be doing right now, both for our bottom lines and to just, the employees that we support in this industry, all the people that matter, is really helping them, giving them training, access, and freedom to be able to do those sort of things, right? To be able to think creatively, to be able to really kind of lean into these things, because that's going to be what differentiates you. Because like anyone can go in and ask the same question and get the same answer right now. So what are you going to do differently? So we really have to help our employees and give them the freedom and the support to, be able to come up with these different ways that we can serve our customers better.
This episode of Distribution Talk is sponsored by InSQL Distribution Software. InSQL is a fully functional distribution-based software package, and these folks do it very well at a price point many smaller distributors can afford. Another thing I like about this company is they do it all in-house. They take on these applications and build them into the platform using state-of-the-art Microsoft technology. No third-party bolt-ons for them. This is important because when you need technical assistance, they are the single point of contact. If you're ready to step up to a fully loaded, scalable distribution package at an affordable price, look no further than InSQL Distribution Software at www.insql.com. That's INXSQL.com.
So here's what's going through my mind. Try to connect a couple things. So Adriana, you talked first about, the pace of change of this, right? And that it's not going to go away and it's going to keep going. Jason, you talked about being that thought leader and the like, and tying it again to relationships and the like, right? And then Adriana, you talked about the people side of things. So connect all three of those. I love one of the things that I learned from Jeff Bezos. And he said, everybody asked me, what's going to change in the next 10 years? And that's a good question. We need to ask that. He says, but what people don't ask, which might be even a better question, is what's not going to change? Because if you can identify what's not going to change, then you can invest in that and build operational capabilities around that. So let's just, based on this conversation here, let's ask ourselves what's not going to change. I want to stipulate an answer, and that is what we all talked about already, is the word relationships. Let's stipulate that relationships won't change. Now, I was just with a group with the Equipment Distributors Association last week, and we were talking about relationships. And I said, hey guys, we've been saying forever that this is a relationship business, but can anybody really tell me what a relationship is? If there are 20 people in this room and I ask you to define relationship, how many different definitions do you think we'd have for relationship? We'd have probably 25, right? Everybody has a different one or two. I'm going to go back to what's not going to change here. And I'll tie it to AI and everything, I think.
Okay.
Let's go back 2,500 years to Aristotle. Aristotle told us 2,500 years ago that there are three types of relationship. Number one are relationships that are based on fun. Okay, you know what? A lot of distributors over the years made a lot of money based on relationships based on fun. Golf, dinners, trips together, hunting, fishing. It's all good stuff, right? But it's good until friction or business pressures enter the scene. The second, he said, is transactional. You've got a product. I need it. I've got some cash. Let's exchange, right? All good until, Adriana, as you suggested, the way I word what you say is the rule is that we'll never again long-term have a competitive advantage in product or price, ever, right? That commoditization is even increasing even more. So that brings us to number three, the third level of relationships, all the way back to Aristotle, is those relationships that are based on helping the other party thrive, the other party flourish. So let's take this two ways. And I just doodled this as I was listening to you guys. Let's take this two ways, right? Let's go back to the business side of things, right? The value prop. What that says is, as we look strategically at AI or any other thing in our business, we have to identify the business problems that this tool, AI, can solve for our customers to help them thrive, to help them flourish,
Yes.
right? And that to me is the lens. If we look at this flourishing relationship back to what started this conversation, Jason, when you said my relationship with AI, that's what stopped me, right? What does that say? Adriana, to your point about strategy and people, what it says is our role in leadership must be, in my opinion, to look at these tools through the eyes of our employees to say, not how do I just make them more productive, which is often the lens, not just how to make them more efficient, which is often the lens, not just how to drive more to our bottom line, which is often the lens. It says, look at it through that employee's lens. How can this tool, AI or whatever, help that individual flourish, thrive, I'll even say, become a better version of themselves as a result of doing the work?
And I'm glad you articulated that last piece there, because I had written down as we were talking, how can we leverage AI to lift people up? And I think that was exactly that third point there. Adriana, we've talked about our relationship, so a little bit of our relationship. Tell me about how you see the relationship with AI and how it can actually allow for greater creativity, or wherever you think we should go with this.
So, holding that thought, one of the challenges I think for a CEO and challenges, in the boardroom right now are, okay, that question you said about where are things going to be, not even in 10 years, but where are things going to be in, 3, 5 years, right? And I think anyone who gives you an answer is really making things up, right? Because we don't know. But what we do know is whatever that may be, we need to be able, right? We need to be able and resilient enough to handle it. And so one of the things I think, as far as taking care of people right now and what you can do, people want certainty. They want certainty. And what I want to get across to everyone is that really the only certainty that you have is your why, your business why, the reason why you exist. That right there is your anchor, and that's not going to change. And so I think the more you can come back to that and then look through the lens of how can AI help my people and help us serve out this purpose, serve out this why, right? As long as you look at that lens. And I think, it's how can it help them do their job more effectively in terms of some of the friction points, the bottlenecks, that sort of thing. I mean, I think that part is obvious, but I think, leaders have to also make sure that they're giving them the freedom to figure out what that looks like for companies, right? Because I imagine that typical jobs are not going to exist. Like the way we look at things, like very hierarchically, and this is the role that I do, this is what I do. I think it's going to be more of, here's the skill sets that I have. These are the things that I'm able to do. And you're going to have to be flexible enough to be moved to, different places. And so wherever you're needed, right, at the time. And so I think it's what employers can do and what we can do as leaders is really help everyone right now who doesn't have a relationship with AI get a relationship with AI so that they can be a part of developing that, right? It's kind of like you wouldn't keep people from getting on the internet. You wouldn't keep them from using Excel, that would hold them back. So, letting them utilize AI obviously is also key to that, and giving them the freedom, because at the end of the day, your employees, the people are in the field, the facts are in the field. That's where all of the insights are. That's where everything is. And so to me, we need to enable them, kind of let them be AI enabled so that they can come up with the things. I think really what's happening too, I think kind of moving forward, the answers are not in the boardroom. They're not there at all. They're in the field. And so how can we use AI to empower and enable, right, the people to do that?
So a couple of things. I love it, Adriana. Such good thinking. Thank you. And just building upon it. You're right. Everybody wants certainty in an uncertain world. And I think one of the greatest things of disrespect that a leader can do is promise somebody certainty in an uncertain world. I was with a group of 150 distributors 2 weeks ago in San Diego, and we're talking about how do you take more from the market than the market is prepared to give you in this age of what I call the great redefinition, where everything is being changed. Adriana, as you said, where there's complete uncertainty. And to me, it's a two-step model. It's a two-step model. One, we have to merge our circumstances with our who, not our why, our who. Our why is important as hell. This model says circumstances and who. This model, in my mind, and what I see, it works for both company strategy and individuals. The circumstances says this: those companies and those individuals who are hoping for certainty in an uncertain world are doomed to pain. They are doomed to hurt. They are doomed to struggle, right? If you ignore or deny or try to float above this uncertainty and fantasy, you become absolutely powerless. But if you engage them, as you're saying, Audrey, if we absolutely engage and say, AI is here, it ain't going away. And by the way, even if I'm scared to freaking death because I know nothing about what a token is, which I just looked up on Google this morning, by the way. If I don't know what a token is, all right?
Yeah.
But I have to name them. I have to engage it. And here's the key. I have to honor all of that change, all of that disruption. And I have to have the mindset to squeeze every hidden possibility out of them so that I have a chance of earning more than my fair share. So the first thing is these companies and me as an individual, I have to see this world as it is, not run from it, not hide from it, engage it, run towards it, even though it's uncertain, even though I'm scared, even though I'm going to have to invest resources that I don't know if I'm going to get an ROI or anything from. I need to do that. So that's number one. The second thing is we probably now more than ever, I don't know if that's a fair statement. We not only need to know our why, as you say, Adriana, which we do, these companies and individuals, we need to know our who. Who are we? Who are we? As an organization, I just hurt for those employees that are on Wall Street or Silicon Valley and they just send out emails, right? With layoffs of 5,000 people at a time, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, you just saw who those companies are, right? The thing that we all talked about, the love of distribution, is independent, family-owned, employee-owned distribution businesses. Who are these people? These are companies who truly care, not only about the customers, but thank God we're in a time where humanity, the narrative is being risen. And these are companies who truly care and, dare I say, love their employees. Now, if you do that, if you put that on a wall and say, this is who we are, man, that brings a completely new paradigm as to how we're going to address this uncertainty in the world, technology, so on and so forth. So when we put the circumstances and who I am together, not at odds with each other, but as a team, I view this as a team to go out and grow, develop, become the next best version of myself as a company, become the next best version of myself as an individual. Well, that's when we have the chance to live fully, richly, and seize possibilities and potential in front of us.
Nice.
I think what you're talking about, though, too, 100%, Dirk, is going to require a different way of thinking for a lot of companies.
Huge.
And, right? And one of the challenges with that is really transparency, because, the CEO of a distributor doesn't know what is going to happen. And I think that is something that's unfamiliar territory, really, right? I mean, because, they've survived a lot. But this is a situation where you don't know. And being transparent about that is like, we don't know, but we do know our why. And we do know that we're committed to you and we're going to enable you, right? And you're going to help us figure it out. I think that's the thing I really want to get across is, the facts are in the field. So we've really got to get the people, out in the field. They're going to know what to do, right? But we've got to wrap our arms around them and help them do it. To me, it's the most compassionate thing we can do as leaders right now.
100%. And Adriana, sorry to jump in, Jason. What you said is we got to get to the field, right? So that, in a sense, brings me back to me over the last 4 summers going into a back door.
Yeah.
And those people listening here, right? When is the last time you walked into your business through a different door? I'm amazed that the people I talked to, the stories I heard, and the owner of the company is behind me. right? Listening. And then when we leave, they said, Dirk, I never heard that story before of an employee 20 years, right? That had been with them. So getting there. And from a customer value proposition, one of the best companies I know who does this is Benco Dental.
Yep.
Chuck Owen and the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their executives, every one of their executive teams has written in their job description that they will spend 8 to 12 days a year out in the field visiting customers, not to take the best customers to lunch, not to solve a problem, not to develop relationships, but to go out there and do, Adriana, what you just said. Listen, understand, how is AI impacting the dental industry? How are consumer habits changing for the dental industry? And then they bring all that back to the strategy session. So, Adriana, to your point, the information is there in the territory. Benco tells us how to do it from a customer value proposition. Going in the back door is a way to do it for the employee value proposition.
And I think that kind of ties it back to what you were talking about, the flip side of like, what is going to change? What isn't going to change? What you just said, and the facts are in the field, going through the back door is where all the answers are. That hasn't changed. That won't change. So, staying strong with that and then really investing in enabling those people to tell you at the top what needs to happen. But I mean, that can be a little bit, I feel like that could be a little bit of a mind shift change when times are a little bit more certain.
And sorry, one more thing.
You're good. You're good, man.
Let's not be seduced by easy, because with this AI and all this, the data is going to be so freaking rich, right? It's going to be more, there's going to be more visibility through the data than ever before, right? And so again, could that potentially be harmful to us? Because now we'll be seduced by easy and think, if we thought we could manage the business through Excel spreadsheets in the past, now I can sit on this dashboard, AI generated real time, and manage business from here. Maybe there's a danger there where we would be seduced by easy. But then I'll go back to Jeff Bezos again, who says, the majority of his most important decisions have been made through intuition, not through data. Where does that intuition come from? Doing what you said, Adriana, being out in the field, getting close to those customers and employees.
I want to ask a question here about the word certainty. That's come up, many, many times. Why do you think most employees in our organizations want the certainty? I mean, where is that coming from? Is it, fear of scarcity? Is it, where is it coming from? Or has it been conditioned and they have now put themselves in a box, that this is just my life? And this goes to, Dirk, what your mission is, about bringing people up. But again, why do you think people are so closed into desiring that certainty?
You want me to start, or Adriana?
I have my thoughts, Dirk. I always do. But you go first.
Okay. So, Jason, I think this is a question that requires deep thinking. I think it's a question that requires deep empathy. I think it's a question that asks each of us who we are. And it's actually why I'm in the RV right now on a 60-day riding tour or writing retreat to write my next book called Honor Yourself. And Honor Yourself is a book that is for seasoned professionals who are capable, but quietly unsettled because of this uncertainty. And they're searching for something that they haven't been able to name yet. And I think why we are at the highest level, we can drill this down. Why are people in search of certainty? I think it's because one of the reasons you use the word condition. Jason, my man, I am convinced that the outside world has conditioned us to play it safe. The outside world has said, do not step into the unknown. Do not take risks. Put your trust in everything but yourself. Put your trust in your employer. Put your trust in your government. Put your trust in your God. Put your trust in your religion. Put your trust in everything but yourself. And I truly believe that what we need as individuals is to find a way to quiet the noise around us, to step away from societal's expectations and embrace uncertainty. Because too many of us are just getting by, trying to hold on to what we think is certain. And we're yearning for this something more. And the only way to truly, I believe, step into that is to do deep work on who you are, what virtues you will live by, no matter what AI does, no matter what happens this November with the elections, no matter what happens in Iran, no matter what happens to oil prices. And then to really know your behaviors and to develop the self-awareness to trust your divine inner voice rather than what society is trying to tell you to do. Maybe not a direct answer, but at the core, this is what I believe is happening.
All right. Adriana, what have you got?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared to follow that. I don't know. It was pretty beautiful, and I don't want to muck it up with a simple view here. Although, you know what, I will add to it. I will say that what we really are chasing is the illusion of certainty, because
Yes.
we never have it. We've never had it. We honestly don't know from one moment to the next, what our situation will be. Things can change in an instant. So we've never really had it. I think there's just a lot thrown at us right now. And so we're not trained for it. And I also think that, people will talk about change, right? And how much change is required and change management. People don't like change. And I completely disagree with that. People have no issue with change. Change is in our DNA. It's evolution. Like, we're literally changing. Our cells are changing right now. So that is not the issue. It's the change that's imposed upon us where we feel like we can't control because of all the things that you said, Dirk, right?
Well said.
And so what I just want to offer the leaders, through this discussion is, please don't feel that you need to try to offer certainty other than what it is your business is trying to do. Because number one, there's a credibility issue when you do. You don't feel like you have to do that. But what you can offer is that, but we've got you. Okay, we don't know exactly what is going to happen, but we know that we're going to put you in the best position, and we're in this together, right? We're in it together. And I can't think of a better industry than distribution for this to actually work.
Adriana, I agree with 100%. To not give the illusion of certainty, and then to say, here is our commitment to you, right? To help you thrive and flourish. That's only half the equation. If we're going to truly help these individuals thrive and flourish, we have to create what has been called mutual obligations. We have to be explicit in terms of, in this uncertain world, we're in this together to thrive and to flourish. Come to work for us, and we're going to develop a set of mutual obligations. I learned this at Berlin Packaging 30 years ago. And at Berlin Packaging, it says you come to work for us. And on the left-hand side of this T-chart, it says we owe you these 6 things. We owe you leadership, coaching, chance to grow, collegiality, job security, and rewards. Because we know that's our role in helping you thrive. However, please understand, you play at least 50% in this relationship to help you thrive. And on the right side of this T-chart for these mutual obligations, is here's what we are going to expect from you. Think about that. I love you to death, so I'm going to expect a strong work ethic, productivity, innovation, teamwork, loyalty, and profitability. It's that mutual obligation that is going to allow us to thrive in this world of uncertainty.
And I appreciate the terminology there, the mutual obligations. And the thought that came to my mind was really the collaboration there is going to give us that opportunity to enhance that value proposition. And really what that comes back to, that is the DNA of distribution, is value proposition. And if both sides, and I think there's one side that probably has more of an ego than the other, but if the ego can be removed just a tad and allow for that collaboration in a very positive way, I truly believe technology can be a big part of that. But the collaboration there, I think that you've really got this opportunity for creativity and to change some of the value propositions that you have rested your laurels on for so many years and decades, that you do have this opportunity to thrive. You have this opportunity just to do things a little differently than the next person down the street. And because we still are in competitive businesses, and we are still supposed to be trying to enhance our organization and enhance our position in the market space.
And that's why knowing your who is so important. Because if you don't know your who, that mutual obligations, those two sides, become just words. But when you know this is who you are, we are going to commit this, we're going to expect this. Think about who you recruit. Now you're recruiting the people that already buy into who you are, because that's who they are. And now together, we are absolutely going to go out there and win in the marketplace.
Well, and I think if you package all of that together, right, and bringing it back, the collaboration, who you are, knowing your why, and
Right.
I would add a really good strategic operating
Yes.
system and,
Yes.
shorter planning cycles, right? If you do all those things, I think it comes back to the friction that you talked about at the very beginning,
Yeah.
Jason, and that is the type of friction that maybe you took care of, was part of your value proposition before,
Yes.
maybe, replaced by something else. But in doing all these things, this collaboration and creativity puts you in the best position possible to be there for that next level of friction, because it's always going to be there in some shape or form.
Well, I think without that, this would be a pretty dull place to hang out. I mean, it just wouldn't be much fun if we weren't having to really stretch ourselves to think
Yes.
differently and
Fair
to
point.
allow for different thoughts to enter the room. I mean, I think that's the great thing about these businesses, it's not conformity. It's, there's disruption inside them. And that's the fun of this world.
Now, think about what you just said, right? What both of you said is this collaboration is critical. We need it because we are in a freaking hard, tough, challenging, almost impossible market. But it's our job to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And we need that creativity. Now, for me, the humanity spin on this, all right? What I'm so darn passionate about is the realization that our employees spend 50% of their waking hours. They spend 50% of their lives under your roof. Think about that. Think about the responsibility and opportunity in that. And we have a choice in this environment that you two just painted. We have a choice to develop a culture that helps people recede from challenges, hope that the challenges go away. Forget about what that does for the business. What does that do for the human spirit? What does that do for the human soul? What does that do for the individual's trust and confidence in themselves? Nothing. But when we internalize the fact that these individuals are giving us 50% of their lives, one more time, think about that. Think about the responsibility and the opportunity there. As leaders, right? We have the moral obligation to create that environment that does what you two just said. Figure a way to help them become more creative. Figure a way to help them know themselves better. Figure a way to help them learn how to collaborate better. Think of a way to innovate in new, creative ways. It's not just about the business. It's about the individuals because they're giving you 50% of their lives. And there is that moral obligation I think we have.
So, Dirk, do you think that what you I agree 100%, and it sounds aspirational, but I could be wrong too. I'm curious, is there kind of an inspirational example of where you feel like, or are we all just gonna have to learn this now?
So is it aspirational? Yes. Is it real? Yes. Is it doable? Yes. Are we going to have to think differently? Some of us, the majority of us, yes. So where do you want me to start here? So I could take you to Madison, Wisconsin. And by the way, this is what I say. Come with me in this RV for 4 years, cross this country, walk into these businesses from the back door, hear 1,000 different stories about individuals, not just their jobs, but about their lives. That's the inspiration for all of this. Okay, Adriana? So this is real. This isn't just aspirational theory. I know you weren't alluding to that. I'll take you up to Palmer Johnson, power transmission distributor out of Madison, Wisconsin. You walk through their facility where their technicians are taking apart, disassembling transmissions and putting them back together. Unbelievable how they do it. You look on the wall over there and you see the board that says utilization rate. Here's the utilization rate that we're striving for our technicians. Okay. By the way, guys, you go to any consulting company, go to any warehouse, go to any company, and when they talk about utilization rates, what number are they striving for? I mean, anything less than 98% utilization rate, right? It's crazy. Palmer Johnson, they're striving for a 60% utilization. Not 90, not 80, not 70, a 60% utilization rate. Why? Because they know who they are. You look at the vision and the mission of that company, and I'm going to butcher it, but it talks about the well-being of the people, their employees, their customers, the well-being of the people. And what they know, if they are going to be who they say they're going to be, they're going to have different set of values and different set of behaviors. And they know that if they have 100% utilization rate, because that's what drives the bottom line, they're going to burn people out. They're going to get people depressed. They're going to go home. They're going to beat their dog. They're going to fight with their spouse. They're going to drink too much, whatever it is. And they also know that if those technicians want to learn something, go to class, they can have 100% utilization rate. They know if they want that collaboration that you guys talk about, where a technician can put his or her wrench down and go over and help the other person at the other bench, they're going to have to be able to not bill that amount of time, if you will, right? So this is real, but it goes right to the importance of what the two of you do, Jason and Adriana, the amazing way that you, Jason, help your customers ask the right questions. Mm-hmm. Adriana, how you help your companies look at their businesses in a completely different way in this age of uncertainty. What you two do is absolutely gold to help these leaders think about their business in completely different ways and go from what they think is aspirational, go from what they think is not possible, go from what they think some guy out in an RV is just dreaming up and help them think deeper and harder about what this means to their business. That's what you guys do so beautifully. And that's why I have so much respect for the two of you.
I love what you said, because if there is ever a time for what you just said, right, it's now.
Yeah.
So, right, let's do it.
And not be afraid of the answers. Don't be afraid of what comes out of their mouths. That's the big one. And at least that's what the thing I'm seeing right now. All right, we've got to land this plane here. So any parting thoughts on this one? I mean, I feel like we could go for a long time and we got to stop.
I'll go first. Jason, what you just said, not be afraid of the answers. Yes. But I'm going to go back to what you have said is part of your core value proposition right now. You also cannot be afraid to ask the hard questions, right?
Right.
And again, that's why I think what you do is so freaking beautiful. And then, Adriana, I think what you do right now, the working on strategy, you alluded to it, man. I remember the days when we could do strategy in 10-year time periods. Then it was 5-year time periods. Then it was 3-year time periods. And then we said that we had to do it in pencil. I don't think we have enough pen, lead, or erasers, right, in today's marketplace. So what you do in your hands-on work with those leaders to keep that strategy in a constant, ongoing review and cycle process to ensure that there's innovation and implementation and the development of the right standards with the resiliency to change in today's marketplace, what you do is absolutely critical. And it's beautiful how you do it. And Jason, thanks for having me.
Of course. Adriana, what have you?
I would just say my closing is that I know that it can sound daunting. It can, there's some doom and gloom, some areas of space that you might, where you might frequent. But I'm an optimist, and I believe that the power is in our hands. And I think it goes back to the beginning of what hasn't changed. It has always been about the people, about the humans. And in this age and this future of AI, it's no different. It still comes back to humanity and, what we're going to do and how can we really just leverage this technology to be more human.
Yeah. And again, in the seduction of the whiz bang of the technology, we cannot forget that human element. I mean, that's absolutely. So I am going to make sure that I have your contact information in the show notes and all of that fun stuff. I truly hope that people reach out to you because I've enjoyed my conversations with you both. And as I said, we could just keep going on for hours, but I try to keep a reasonably tight show here. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so glad that, Adriana, thank you for the push, the nudge to get us back together again. And, really, truly appreciate speaking with both of you.
You too. Thanks for having us, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Impostor Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, the Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.